That's it. Hoxo. Written right there. You see it?
Love it, man. I was deleted from Facebook. Let's get this back on Facebook here. There we go.
How does it sound from my end?
Yeah, we're good, man. We're good, man. Let's save this. Let's get it going. Make sure we're rocking and rolling here. Yeah, Facebook is not streaming. We'll deal with that later.
Sure.
We will deal with Facebook later. What is up, everybody? Good morning, or good afternoon if you're over in the UK. Thank you for joining us on the podcast live. We're going to give this a minute or so to load up. We're going to check out what's happening on LinkedIn. Let's see what's happening over there before we do our formal introductions. When you do the live show and you give it like a minute to kind of load up, or you get right into it?
I haven't got LinkedIn Live yet, which is
yeah.
So I can't tell you that. I've been on a few, and they tend to kick in pretty quick.
Yep, we got a couple of people joining us here, so we're going to let this load up for another minute there. I am pissed off about this Facebook thing, but we will get over that. I think let me remove it and let me try it again just to make sure we're back and running. Give me 1 minute there. Everyone hang out with us for 1 second here, and we'll do our proper intros and kick this thing off, and we will get it going. All right. Here we go, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to the podcast live. Should I do my little one of these? Right, whatever, right? We got tricks. We got little things we could do here. We're not going to overproduce it. But I'm thrilled to welcome my guest, Mr. Sean Anderson. It is the third day in a row that we are blessed to be in each other's company, right?
Are you getting bored of me yet?
No, this is fun, man. I actually think it's kind of cool. I feel like we're like coworkers.
Yeah, we're getting that. Right? We're like some kind of intense dating situation right now.
It's some kind of weird dating scheme we got going on here. But it's awesome. Sean is the CEO and founder of Hoxo Media. He is also the host of the Ragtime? No, I'm kidding.
Podcast.
It's a Rag podcast, and I was thrilled to be on it earlier this week. It premiered earlier today. I'm going to post that up in a little bit. That was absolutely awesome. But I'm thrilled to welcome him to the show. We're going to talk about all things. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about what is recruitment marketing. We're going to talk about a few other things as well. But I'd love if you could kind of introduce yourself to my tribe. Tell everyone kind of who you are and what you do, my man.
Yeah, sure. So thanks for the intro, Sean Anderson. I'm the CEO and founder of Hoxo Media. We're 3 years old. We're a marketing agency that exclusively work with recruitment businesses. So I was a recruiter for 7 years. I started my career in Australia, did 5 years in London, and then I was about to launch a recruitment agency called Hoxo. That was the plan. And I changed my mind last minute and launched a marketing agency, having never worked in marketing in my life. So I've kind of got the opposite experience of you. 3 years on, we've got over 50 retained customers around the world.
That's
another 60 working through an academy program that are mentored by me every week. The podcast reaches now over 14,000 monthly recruiters, and my business is all about effectively helping recruitment agencies win business online. So, we've all been trained a certain way. It's an outbound industry by nature, but the way that other sectors have been moving and shifting their operating model for the last however many years is to have a digital footprint. And I think the recruitment industry is one of the last to adopt to that.
100%.
So my business helps those forward thinkers, I call them the progressive agencies, to win business online. And we give them a team, we manage the budget, we create the content, we put in the systems and the process, and we build communities that turn into candidates and clients effectively.
And that's awesome. And it's essentially it's an agency, right?
Yeah,
all intents and purposes, right? But why do you think the recruitment sector has been kind of late to the party?
Because they are 99.9% salespeople in an office typically. So if you look at most businesses, you have multiple departments. You got product, you got development, you got tech, you got finance, HR. Sales is usually one team. Marketing, there's so many teams. Whereas in a recruitment business of maybe even up to 200-300 people,
of course,
90% of sales, and then you might have some leadership, and then you might have a small back office function, and there might be 1 or 2 people in marketing. Even like some of the biggest brands you can think of in our sector have teams of less than 5 people in marketing, which it is, but it's because everyone else is a direct on the floor.
They're profit generating, right? There's an ROI over their head, but it's changing the whole dynamic too. I mean, how is the recruitment industry so blind to the effects of the organic reach on social media and branding? Why? It just baffles me, right? I mean, I could say that because I'm in a position where, again, I was a marketer who went into recruiting, so I understand it. I mean, I don't see the disconnect. Like, I don't understand why they're so late to the party, man. It really is crazy.
It's just tradition more than anything else. Like the UK is where recruitment started. Interestingly, I went to Australia and that's where I was a teacher that landed in Melbourne and fell into recruitment, and everyone was English at the top. So the whole of the leadership function in the business at Randstad were all British, and an English guy recruited me. And then I went out on nights out, and it was just full of Brits and Irish and Scottish, all in bars and wearing suits and working in recruitment. So the tradition in the UK is then spread around the world. And, you know, it's a sales driven, highly aggressive mindset that, and it's worked. The reason it's not evolved is because it still works. I know people that they haven't even got a LinkedIn presence and they make $1 million a year on their own. And so it's hard
it's about relationships in the network, of course.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they may not need the recruiting support.
100%. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. Yeah, totally. It just may not be needed. Right. And so why invest some money into it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
But you got to
interesting that you talk about recruiting startup. Yeah.
We remember how people were trained. Like most recruitment owners were trained in a world pre-social media. So they have these skills to, like, you know, they call it the Rolodex, where they had all these business cards, and that's how they won. They used to fax over CVs, resumes, and, you know, they used to make
old school
great money. Yeah. And all those techniques, slightly more digital in terms of a digital CV and LinkedIn, but the same processes still work. They still work. So, you know, it's very hard to tell a person who's successful to change. It's the guys who feeling the pain that typically change in any sector.
Right. And it's also the new age recruiters as well. You know, me coming into the market, for example, being an independent owner, I understand the importance and the effectiveness of building that online presence and online brand in many different ways. But there's a lot of tools out there that people are unfamiliar with. So let's kind of walk through the basics here, right? I'd love to kind of hear your approach without giving away too much of the secret sauce, if you don't mind, Sean, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Client comes to you and they say, hey, listen, we really don't have a robust marketing program. We have one kind of intern that's been managing our social channels. We post a couple of jobs here and there. Maybe we'll show a picture of our holiday outing or our happy hour. And it's not really effective for us, Sean. What would you say is a first step to really understanding, you know, how a company should evolve, you know, digitally?
Yeah, good question. To me, it always starts with what is the business trying to do? So, you know, marketing should be driving a business objective. Not to tick the marketing box is not an objective. To grow the agency by X%, to open in a new region, to launch a new office, to crack into a new space, sector, office, whatever. There's usually a business driver that is, you know, that these guys and girls who run these agencies want to achieve. So for me, it's start with the end in mind. What do you want to do from a business perspective, and then work backwards and work out how can we, from an online perspective, support you getting there. So typically, that, you know, most agencies we work with, they have a tendency to be more, they lean towards they need more candidates, or they're not very good at new business.
What's the business objective that you're trying to achieve first? You're not going from the creative approach if it was like a brand campaign.
Yeah, we don't go straight into, like, you know, let's blow up the internet with all these cool stuff. I think it's about really understanding where do you want to be, and what are the quick wins we can put in place that are going to help you get there. So most of our clients don't even have like sales collateral. They don't even have decks. Like, they go to meetings and they don't present anything. They do everything in a black book. They wonder why. Yeah, they don't have any. They don't even have a business card. They don't even have a website that says what they do. They really are operating under the radar. So for a lot of the time, it's making sure that what they say in the boardroom, what they say on the sales floor, and what they say online matches, and it's compelling and it's clear. And then it's about working out who they want to talk to from the outside in. So the biggest challenge recruitment agencies have when they're slightly bigger is the sheer complexity of the landscape that they're dealing with. So you're in a creative space, NYC. You know, that's a really clear focus. But if you were one of
digital marketing,
but imagine you were
a niche.
Yeah, imagine you were one of 50 recruiters who had 50 niches across 50 locations, and we had one branding budget to try and hit everyone. It's impossible.
Yeah. No, it's tough, right? Because you need to be targeted, right? There's two elements of social media. You could focus on the branding and getting the name out of the company, right? But if you want to get into like focused content, that's where it gets difficult. Now let's talk a little bit through the kind of the creative and messaging process. This is where, you know, as we're talking about, can get a little bit muddy. What's the exercise? What's the approach? What's the technique to really understand that core messaging and how that translates on social digital?
For me personally, it starts with who you're trying to talk to. I said it. I don't know if I said it on the call with you yesterday. Like, everyone is the star of their own show, right? Everyone is the movie star of their own script. And what I mean by that is, so many recruitment businesses talk we, I. Yeah, they promote their internal employees getting promoted to senior consultant. It's we're doing this, we're doing that. I don't think people give a shit, if I'm brutally honest. I don't think people care. They want to know what you're doing for them. So for me, if you can position your brand as the guide to supporting the audience to achieve what they want to achieve, that's the kind of messaging process we go through. How do you position yourself as the enabler for those that you serve, as opposed to saying we're fucking great, we're in these regions, we're growing.
Dynamic.
It's this isn't about self-promotion all day. It's showing that you offer value to a very clear audience.
No, let's talk about adding value, right? Because I think that's a problem that every recruitment agency, when we're going in for the pitch, when we're going after the clients, right? Like, how are we different? And I think every client's going to ask that question: what makes you different, right? And it's the same bullshit answer from every agency. It's our relationships. It's the added value we bring. And that's a crock of shit, man. Like, how do you advise clients to bring the value to life?
I'd say it starts with statistics. So it starts with being able to prove exactly what you do. So rather than saying we add value, saying we have this candidate-driven process, what data and results have you got that can back it up? So if you can prove that you've got an 80% client candidate retention rate after 6 months in a job, then you've got a stat that can separate you from a market that just talks in riddles. If you can prove that you've placed X amount of people in that niche in the last 12 months, and these are the companies we work with. Yeah, numbers and stats talk for me. I think if you can say, look, I understand your pain. I know what you're trying to achieve. I know what your problems are, because I already work with everyone that you can competition. And I can prove that I've got empathy for your challenges, and I've got credibility in this market from what I've done. Then why wouldn't people work with you? Like, it's literally, it's a no-brainer in a lot of instances. But then it's about what I'm seeing, like looking at you and looking at the next generation, that the way in which we fundamentally price and work is starting to be disruptive. Like, you're looking at thinking like retainers and
fees, exclusivity.
Yeah, exclusivity, putting people on site, off site. Traditionally, recruiters have just gone percentage-based of fees from their own location.
The model's changing.
Exactly, and that is where the USP is starting to that USP will last for the next few years, and then you're going to need to move again. You're going to need to have another added value. You
have to be able to evolve too, right? And it's about the relationships, right? Like, how do you show the value and depth of your network? Because I think it really comes down to a couple things when you're talking to clients. How deep you are in this category, right? How deep is your network, and how soon could you get? I love it when clients. Remember recruiting days when clients would be like, "How soon can you get me qualified candidates in front of me?"
Yeah.
Right. And I'd be like, I can't give you a hard number to that. Right. I don't promise that. For me, there's a lot of other people that promise that. And I think that sets you up for failure unless you could guarantee it. I mean, it's a tough one.
I think committing to milestones is clever, but committing to milestones that you can improve. Right. So, like, one of my clients, a guy called Chris Redmond in London, he's come from a program management background. So he's a bit like you. He's come from industry and gone into recruitment later. And this guy ran programs for telco organizations across the globe. And he was running like multi-million-dollar programs with hundreds of staff. And he's in charge of the timelines, the deliverables, down to like, the finest details. So he runs his recruitment process in the same project management methodology. So he is in control of that process. And when he explains it, it's like so fucking simple. You're like, why aren't everyone doing this? The things he commits to are things he's in control of. And it's really about control of communication more than anything else.
It's 100%. I mean, that's a pillar of all recruiting, right? It's managing expectations and managing the communication flow. And that applies from principles of account management, right? I mean, that really what it boils down to. It's managing timelines and managing expectations. So this guy has this mindset. He has this approach. And what metrics is he really holding to? Is it like deliverabilities? Is he like, how does he know when he's going to deliver a qualified candidate? Because you got to map out a market. You got to understand who's available, who's not. You got to ensure that, candidates are actually interested in your client. You could have a bullshit client that no one wants to work for. So you're putting metrics against it. It makes it tough.
He won't. I don't think
he won't work with them, right? You're not going to work with them, obviously.
He'll work with a business that's in a position that he feels fits his model.
Advantageous.
They've got timelines that fit what he can do. He's been doing it long enough to know that if he can't find someone or a list of people inside a certain period of time, then he's not going to do it. because he's got a process that he commits to every time. So he does commit to numbers and stats. He ramps days of, I don't know that like, you should get him on and talk about it because he's doing a lot.
Hook me up with him. I love to talk to him.
Yeah, he's class, and he hosts these days. So at the moment, this week he hosted a day in Texas for a client where they met about 10 people via digital like video channels, where he hosts this day where his presentation day where he's like, these are the long list. You're going to spend X amount of time, and he coordinates this day where they do all these different things.
Round robin, yep.
Yeah, and he gets a client hooked into this process where he's like, I am going to solve your shit inside 90 days or whatever it is. And I think it's wicked, and it's a differentiator. And you know what, in lockdown, I've seen the business he's winning and the clients he's attracting hasn't slowed down in any way, shape, or form, because
when you have that foundation, right? When you have that process built in, you're not changing anything, right? You could adjust a little bit, but it's all about how you react to external factors, right? If you have a solid process and systems in place, that's your foundation, and you're not going to crack and keep it, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I know it's a good one too. So let's talk about your podcast a little bit. Tell everyone what it's all about.
Yeah, so I launched it at the same time as you. I think January 19.
Yep.
I was sat there. If we go back in time to 2016, the year I was finishing my recruitment career, and I was in that mode of startup phase mode where I'd just bought a property, I'd saved up the cash, I had money in the bank, and I was like, right, I need to plan my agency now. And what I was looking for was content. I was listening to podcasts at the time, from Tony Robbins to Gary Vee to all these different weird and wonderful people and entrepreneurs, self-help, stuff like that. And I was trying to find collateral that would help me really get my shit in order to start my agency. And the problem I had was I didn't know many other recruitment owners. I knew my own bosses, and that was about. I was in this business it wasn't big. It was like 50 odd people, but we were really quite institutionalized. We were an awesome business, but I didn't network with other recruiters, just internally. So I was like, and I can't turn around to my bosses and say, guys, can you help me with this? Because they'd know I was leaving, right? Yeah. So
you can't give it away.
No. So I was really stuck for answers out there. And anyway, long story short, I never even launched a business. 2 years into Hoxo, I was like, you know what? There's a real that level of content I wanted back then is not there. It's fundamentally still not there.
Right. There was a gap in the market.
Yeah, I was like, there's no one just interviewing people who have recently started agencies or have built agencies in the past and sharing the secret sauce of what you need to do and telling the warts and all versions of it. Because actually,
that's what people want to hear, right? People want to hear the good, the bad, the ugly. They don't want to hear just like all the pretty shit.
No. And had I had my own
interesting.
Show,
no value.
No way. Had my own show been alive and around in 2015, 16, I don't think Hoxo Media would have existed. I would have launched my own recruitment company faster, because I would have listened to these people, and it would have given me the confidence to go, I can fucking do this. Like, these guys are just like me. So I interview recruitment owners from startup all the way to scale up, some of the biggest names, some of the smallest, newest brands. And I tell their stories, and I try and unlock the secrets, a bit like, how I built this or whatever. But for our sector, interestingly, we were at a point in early March. We were releasing one episode a week. It was a physical show, so I invited people into our studio in London.
Oh, back when people were allowed to interact with each other physically.
Man.
Back in the day.
It was awesome. I loved it. It was my Wednesday afternoon every week, and we were getting about 6,000 monthly listeners at the time, and it was great. It was winning business. It was well known, the rag. But then when Corona hit, and I was at home, literally within 2 days of being at home, I was like, everyone's panicking right now. If I turn around and start to try and tell the story of how X, Y, and Z agency, how Joe Mullings built the Mullings Group or whatever. No, is that a bit insensitive? Do people really want to hear that now, or do they want to know what the fuck they're going to do to get out of this mess?
Exactly.
So I flipped it to what I call the RAG Report, which is a daily show. And on the daily show, my first port of call has been to talk about Corona and how people are fighting through it. And I've talked.
It's relevant. People want to relate to it. They want to understand what other people are going through because they're not connected physically. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, we've gone live daily, and it's been we're now at just under 15,000 monthly listeners. So it's nearly tripled. And you were episode 45, I think, or 46 of the new show. So we've gone hard. It's been intense.
I hear you, man. I know.
But I've loved it. I've enjoyed it, and it's kept me in tune with the market. And do you know what? I get so many messages from people saying, "You've helped me start my business. You've kept me sane in this period." It's why I do it. I love it. I want to help as many people as I can.
Right, man. Like, I mean, it sounds cliche when people say that. Like when people say, you know what, if I could just help one person make a difference. But until you're on the other side and you receive that first message, mate, right? Like until you get that first message and you're like, holy shit, like somebody just took the time to write me a message and tell me how my content, my guests, whoever I had on, excited them, motivated them, pushed them, inspired them, and got them to take an action. Or even a note to just say, hey, man, I'm loving your content. It's great. Like that's what it's all about, right? And, when I look at my journey and, I'm having some nice growth, I'm having some nice feedback as well. I see the downloads and the counts and the followers go up and that's all fine and dandy. But knowing that, we're helping people. And also, Sean, like you said it before, we have our ear to the ground. It keeps us in tune, right? As business owners, as marketers, as human beings, to know what other people are doing, what's happening out there. And at the same time, keeping our brand, and I hate to use the term personal brand because I really just don't like that term, top of mind in the marketplace.
But it's leverage, right? You're leveraging other people, and you're not, I don't have to think every day, what type of content do I need to think of? Because the people and me, we create it there and then. It's just, it's organic. Well,
exactly.
Do you know the biggest byproduct I didn't expect is the impact it's had on me personally. So, I feel like I'm having a daily MBA, right? I'm learning from people. I'm getting absolute golden nuggets of information from people daily. Yesterday on my LinkedIn, if people listening check it out, I put a post up which I reposted an episode that was exactly 12 months old to the day. And it was with a lady called Tony Kokoza, who's a recruitment owner from the UK who sold. She started her agency when she was pregnant and being mistreated by the employer she worked for in 1990. And then she scaled it up to a £30 million agency and sold. And she's now an advisor and a personal coach. She's like in her personal life, in her personal time, she's a suicide support worker, so she helps people who are just seriously suffering from mental health, and she advises recruitment companies. Anyway, a year ago to yesterday, I invited her into the show, and my intention that day was just to talk about her journey. But quietly in the background, I was 4 weeks away from getting married. I was trying to build my business, and I was renovating a property, and I was stressed. I was going through some real tough demons internally, right?
I hear you, man. Been there.
And I wasn't talking about it, and I don't think I'd even realized what was going on until that show. And she talked about her life in a way that I was compelled to open up. I don't know why, but she got me talking, and I like to talk.
That's a big podcast, man.
Yeah. But I opened up way more than I expected. So did she. And
those are the best shows.
Mate, at the end of the episode, she said to me, she was like, can we really release all that? Like, there was a lot in there. I was like, yeah. And
you went deep.
And that went down as the best, it was the most listened to. It was, and to me, it had the most impact on me. And I reposted it yesterday, and it had the same kind of, it had an effect on me again. It made me focus on positives. It made me realize that, some people go through adversity at a level that I've never done, and hopefully I never will, because this woman has been through everything you can think of. So the show, it gives me, not only is it great for recognition, it's great for business development, it's great for helping people, but it's like daily therapy. It's crazy.
It really isn't. And I was smirking in agreement with you when you said it's your daily MBA, because, I look back on the last, we'll call it 18 months of my content journey. And I talk about every episode that I have of the proper podcast, every one of these live shows. And it doesn't matter. Every person I'm learning from, and I'm picking things up, and I'm picking up, tidbits, tools, tricks. And that's my fucking masterclass, man. Right. That's the way I learn. I learn through listening and through osmosis. For example, my next guest, Andy Foote, I see him down in the green room. He'll be joining us in a minute. We're gonna talk a little bit about what's happening, technically on LinkedIn. We're gonna talk about the algorithm, and I'm really excited to learn from him and understand. So, Sean, I want to bring this home here. Thank you, for joining me on the show today, and we'll get to all the formalities in a little bit. But I wanted, I had Steve Noodleberg. I don't know if you know Steve. He's a big sales trainer here over in the US. He's awesome. He's an insane mix of like this old school mentality, energy, and vibe with this new school kind of like techniques, tricks, tips, and energy as well. So it's kind of cool what he brings to the table. And I have a question I've been asking for a while where we talk about silver linings and like what people are experiencing during the last 8 to 10 weeks of COVID. And he flips it around and it's simple as this, dude. Sean, tell me something good. Tell me something good that's happening in your life, man.
Something good. Does it have to be personal or professional or personal?
Either one. Surprise me. Or both. Well, give me both, man.
Yeah, I'd say from a professional perspective, I've never been as dialed in my work. Like I've been on it, going daily with the show, working with the team, going remote. I'd say being remote, it's made me closer to my team in a weird way. Like, you've got to schedule in those times with each other on Zoom, and so I actually feel like we're in an amazing place as a team, which is because we had a couple of guys that were remote already, and they we all probably felt they were a little bit outside of the culture because they were only coming into the office occasionally, whereas now we're all in the same boat. It's brought us all together. So that's definitely a professional one. Personally, I started a challenge on 60 days ago. There's a guy, a big podcaster in the US called Andy Frisella. Some of your listeners might know. He owns a show. It used to be called the MF CEO, I think it was called. And he talks about this mental toughness challenge called 75 Hard, where for 75 days, you change your life by adhering to 5 rules, right? So every day you've got to train, exercise twice a day for 45 minutes each. And one of those exercises has to be outside. Doesn't care what you do. But you have to do 2 for 45 minutes and 1 has to be outside. You have to drink a gallon of water. So I've got my second.
That's why you got that jug there, right? Like I hold this thing up here. I think it's nothing. You gotta be a size man over there.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta one up me.
Drink a gallon of water. You got to read 10 pages of a business or self-improvement book every day. You've got to eat to a diet. You can't eat any junk food. There's no alcohol. So you've got to stick to that, and then you've also got to take a progress picture every single day of your physique to see how you physically change it. So I've been doing it for 60 days, and I did it only because of the lockdown. Like I listened to the show a year ago, and I was like, that sounds awesome. But everywhere you look and turn in life, especially at our age, there's a party, there's a family member's wedding, or something's going on. There's always something, and this lockdown has allowed me to go. I can see a clear runway of 75 days. And you know what? It's changed my life. That's changed my life. 100%.
Good on you, man. Right? Everything was canceled. You had no excuse not to do it. And good on you for taking that challenge. The one thing I regret was not, a couple of challenges came my way and I said, fuck it. And I decided I can't multitask on things that I'm focused. If there's one thing I'm going to go deep on, I'm going to do it. And that's what I'm going to commit to. So I went deep on my content. I went deep on my show and building out my brand. And I'm really happy with the results of that, right? If I went deep on fitness thing, it wouldn't work out. I mean, my wife's doing it. She's doing the yoga daily and all that. So Sean, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate, this is great, man. I mean, we've had 3 days together. I was on your show. You were on my show. And then we did a show together yesterday, which was awesome. Really, feel connected with you, man. Hopefully sooner than later, I'm going to get my ass over to the UK and we'll hang out. I have that on my radar. Supposed to be doing some things with the Wreckfest folks over there. So that hopefully we'll get back on track for 2021. I'm excited. Sean, where could folks find you? Where could they connect with you? Where could they learn more?
Yeah. So you've got the LinkedIn profile, Sean, obviously get me on there. I'm every day on LinkedIn, the RAG podcast, which is on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, get me on there, or, go on hoxomedia.com, hoxomedia.com.
I love it, man. I'm going to bring on my next guest. I'll make it. Do you know Andy Foote? Andy, what's happening, my man?
Well, hello.
I should have given you a heads up. So I apologize that I just kind of tagged you into that.
I was ready like 20 minutes ago. I've been watching and listening intently, and I'm also trying to keep up. Sean, I'm not sure that's as big as Sean.
It's not bad. It's not a bad effort. I think
it's called a growler in the States.
We usually fill it with beer, though.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not, folks. I promise.
When I hear the word growler, I relate that. So Andy, we're gonna jump in a minute. But Andy, where are you from originally?
So all over. My dad was in the British forces, so I was born in Germany. Spent my formative years in as an army brat with the British services education system. So this is a British forces brat accent. It's hard to place. Other Brits would go, "Is he from London?" I'm not so sure. What about his hard vowels? Where do they come from?
Yeah, because I don't know. You sound like Brits usually do in the movies, where they've got that traditional accent. You got no idea where they're from.
Exactly. So sometimes that's a good thing, right? So yeah, but my dad's a Glaswegian. He's got this very broad Scots accent, and I tend to fall into that when I'm speaking with him. But yeah, and then sort of half German. Make of that what you will, right? So I'm the guy on holiday. I'm reserving the pool chairs with my towel.
I love it.
That's what we do here in the States, man. We don't want to take our pool chairs. Well, I don't know if you guys connected, but I definitely think it's worthwhile. Definitely connect offline.
Sure.
And we're going to dig in. Sean, thank you for joining us. We'll catch up soon.
You guys.
Flip it over to Andy. Andy, what's happening, man? I'm happy to connect with you. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, we finally did it. And I'm happy to be here.
Awesome.
Watched you go from strength to strength. Really digging what you're doing. It's great. You've obviously got some great guests in your back pocket already recorded. I'm sure you got some great ones coming up. So yeah, very cool.
That's awesome, man. I certainly appreciate it. And if you want to do one thing technically on your LinkedIn feed, you could actually share this live feed to your tribe by simply hitting share off of my post if you want to kind of get it out there. It helps. It helps spread it out there and spread the word. LinkedIn's got to do a better job. Let's dig in. Before we go deep into the question of the day, what's up with the algo? We'll get to that in a little bit. But why don't you tell everyone, we know where you were born, we know where you were conceived, we know about your upbringing, which is fascinating. But let's hear professionally. Tell us a little bit about your story before we get into the good stuff.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that at all. I want to talk about you getting fired by Gary Vee. That's all.
I've talked about that many times.
I don't care about it. All right. So joking apart, So I am a.
That's old news.
Yeah. Well, not for me, but never mind.
I'll tell you about it.
I'll catch up. So yeah, I'm a LinkedIn branding strategist, and I help folks generally one-on-one with their LinkedIn brand and presence, and then their strategy. So what is it they're trying to achieve by spending time on LinkedIn? So it's a combination of branding, marketing, and strategizing. Those are the three main things that I do. I also help with resumes. Tend not to advertise that because I find resumes to be freaking boring for me.
Yeah, I don't go there.
As a wordsmith, I like ghostwriting the about section.
Okay.
And I love coming up with creative slogan style headlines, right? Because that's very important. And then no matter what the objectives are, I can usually help. So whether it's someone who's trying to get the next gig, so they're in transition, or if they're they think they're in line for a promotion, then they want to look very, very good via their LinkedIn profile. People who are trying to start their own business or trying to pivot, all of these objectives I can usually help with. And prior to the last 2 months or so, I have mainly just let my content do the talking for me, and that's primarily how people have found me. They read something I've written, and there's usually always a call to action at the end of that content, that piece of content, and then they'll track me down, and then I confirm that as well. I also say, so how did you find me? And then that lets me know what content is working. So that's quite a good mechanism too. But in the last 2 months or so, I just tallied it up. I've done something like 8 LinkedIn Live type things. So I'm putting myself out there more and just doing the live, in front of the camera stuff. And funnily enough, Adam, when you do stuff like that, then you get ultra busy. Who'da thunk?
Who'da thunk it? Yeah, I'm running a full-time consultancy and doing the shows and doing everything, and I make the time to do it all because it comes down to branding and getting yourself out there. So I want to do 2 things with our time today, Andy. First, let's talk about the LinkedIn algorithm a little bit. It's at a high level, my opinion is you need to, there's a couple of schools of thought here. Some people are just like, you know what, I'm on here, I'm going to do my thing and let the system work, and it's just going to go what it is, right? And I'm going to rely on where the algo is. Then there's people who are students of the game that really understand, listen, I'm not trying to cheat the system, but I need to know how it works so I can take advantage of it and really ensure that my content shines, right? And people fall into a couple of different camps here. And I like to be in the camp of, I need to know what the hell is happening. So I need to, because I'm a brand, I'm a property, you know, I have all these things, I'm a business, and I need to get it out there. So talk to us a little bit about the current state of the LinkedIn algorithm. And we're not looking for ways to cheat it. We're not talking about engagement pods. We're not talking about any of that bullshit, but we do want to get an understanding of what is working now, what isn't working. But I'd love to understand, like, what do you hear at a high level? Are they trying to democratize it? Are they trying to ensure that anybody who's coming in new has a fighting chance against like these big, you know, influencers, these big potters that are affecting the system? Tell us what's happening, man.
Yeah, so lots of questions in
yes.
that.
Let's get to it.
I'll tackle them one by one, and I'll come back to democratization because that's interesting. You should mention that because that's pretty important in terms of some of the stuff that I've seen. I can't, practically speaking, I can't share a link. I can only see private chat with you. I can't seem to enter a live chat.
No, the live chat is for the host here. So you would have to do it in the LinkedIn feed itself.
Oh, okay.
Not on the StreamYard. StreamYard has it integrated for the host.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I needed to do. Okay, so I wanted to send a link, share a link with you.
You can drop
it.
So
yeah, if I do that in, let's see, this is going to be riveting for the viewers.
You want to do a screen share?
No. I've just sent you via private chat. I've sent you that link to an article that I wrote. But all right, so let's dive in.
Right. We'll link it up.
Yeah, so the first thing you said was there are two types fundamentally. I think that's right, of folks who will publish and then maybe just hope for the best. And then there's the other type who are like wanting to understand what's going on under the hood. And I think these days, certainly on LinkedIn, you should be in the latter camp, because what is the point in investing all of your time and effort in putting, hopefully great content out there without understanding the rules of the game, right? And so I think that's important. And it could come down to, well, how many hashtags do I use, right? Should I use broetry, right? And all these other questions that come into play whenever you're trying to get maximum reach, maximum distribution on LinkedIn. So that article is essentially...
Yeah, I just posted it.
Thank you. That is me as an editor, and I'm pulling all this research together. And the thing that prompted it really was this study by a Dutch, very capable Dutch LinkedIn trainer called Richard van der Blom. And he did something genius. He got in touch with his local university and specifically the marketing students there, their department, and said, hey, I have a very cool project for you. Go ahead and analyze 3,000 pieces of content on LinkedIn. Tell me what you find out. And it was as simple as that. And he'll say, I don't know exactly what they did, but their results, right, the analysis that they came back with absolutely confirmed what me, Andy, and a bunch of other people who have been watching content flow very closely have been observing for some months, all right? And so I'll pull certain things out of that article, but it's absolutely fascinating stuff. For example, like 3 hashtags, no more than 3 hashtags, because guess what? LinkedIn tells us that's the case. Mm-hmm. And further, if you do more than 3, then it could actually harm you, right? Because
I'm guilty of that. I got to drop it down sometimes. Yep.
Yeah, so if LinkedIn tells you something, and they rarely are that specific, by the way, then you follow it, right? That's the letter of the law. You do it. And what I tend to do is I use 2 very relevant hashtags to the content, right? So they're hyper relevant to the content itself. And then I use my own custom. So I'm using Andy Does LinkedIn. And so that... it will gather interest, will gather followers. Now, I think we're still in like version 1 of hashtags on LinkedIn. I think version 2 is going to come eventually and could be very exciting. What do I mean about what could version 2 look like? For example, not just having a very vague follower number, but actually knowing who is following a particular hashtag. Right? Think about that. So you've got whatever, 300, 400 followers of your custom hashtag, knowing who's following. Step number 1. Step number 2, knowing how many times it was clicked on. All right? Knowing how often it's clicked on, but also what time of day it's been clicked on, right? So there's, and this stuff is not a stretch because we're kind of getting that. Yeah, we're kind of getting that data from visitors anyway. If you have the premium package, you're seeing who's coming, right, and when they turn up. So that's not too much of an ask. So hashtags are important because they're not just an index, but they're also an indicator potentially, and there could be an individual brand accelerant, right? Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, I took an approach where I literally named my show on LinkedIn with a hashtag, and if you click on that hashtag, it goes to my page. So I tied it all together as one brand experience, and it's actually working out okay.
Yeah, that's exactly the right approach. And like I say, it's a hedge because I believe, like I said, there's going to be a version 2. So then you're well placed to capitalize on that if you start building it now. And in terms of building it now, what I found is, again, big surprise, but if you put that hashtag, that custom hashtag everywhere where it makes sense, and I've started putting it in comments as well.
I do it everywhere.
I don't think it's intrusive. It's kind of like an email footer.
It's a signature, plus it's also a branding element.
It's a branding element.
I treat it as a branding element. The podcast hashtag, the podcast, and I do the podcast live, which I'm actually, like, quick note, I'm going to be fading that out very shortly to just have one concise brand, because I think part of my one of my issues is that there's 2 different brands there. There's actually 3 if you count my day job, but we'll call it 2 for now.
I went through the exact same thing, Adam, right? I had 3. I had Advanced LinkedIn Strategies. I had LinkedIn Insights, right? And then I had Andy Does LinkedIn. I thought, hold on a second, let's just go with the most obvious. The most obvious is simple. Andy, because that's me. No one knows that Advanced LinkedIn Strategies is me, although that's my tagline on my website. And LinkedIn Sites, LinkedIn Sites, that's being used by other people as well. So there's muddying of the brand. So let's go with the most obvious one, and you're doing the exact right thing. And then the other thing is, little tricks like, for example, if you do a search on your custom brand, but you type it into the search box, do not click on, as soon as it comes up, the autocomplete option. Do not click enter, but you click on the search icon, right? If you do that instead, then you should, this doesn't work for everyone, there's been mixed results, but you should be able to see the usage. So how many times that has appeared on LinkedIn, that hashtag has been, so if you can
just see the results number, correct?
You can see the results. So that means that you can start tracking that, right? It's just another stat that you could keep an eye on.
Be a student of the platform. Be a student. Be ahead of the curve.
You have to do all of this stuff. So yeah, that's what I'd say about hashtags. That
let's talk about content, though. Let's talk about content.
Yeah. So content is always going to be the primary thing, right? If you're ever going to share something, then there has to be some kind of a value add from where I'm sitting. Now, what you've observed, what everyone's observed over the last 18 months or so, is that it's now becoming a lot more casual, a lot more social.
It's become a game. People are writing for the likes, and that's something that bothers me.
Yes, they are. I mean, they're doing that, and that's obviously a purposeful thing. That's by design, and they're wanting to get any kind of engagement, and they don't care if it's just for the day. They'll never get engagement from that person ever again. But there's something now that's just happened recently called dwell time.
Let's talk about dwell time, of course. Let's break that down for people that don't know. What is dwell time, Andy?
All right, so I'm gonna read the LinkedIn explanation, then I'll decipher it. I'll translate it.
It's a snoozer.
Yeah, right. I know that. Yeah, if you want to, instead of counting sheep before you go to sleep,
read the terms.
Just go to the engineering blog, the LinkedIn engineering blog. Just read a few paragraphs there, and that'll do.
It's a good lullaby for the children.
That'll do the trick. So here's what they say. At a high level, each update viewed on the feed generates 2 types of dwell time. First, there's the dwell time on the feed, which starts measuring when at least half of a feed update is visible as a member scrolls through their feed. Second, there's a dwell time after the click, which is the time spent on content after clicking on an update in the feed. So, all right, so I'll break that down. What we're talking about here is the home feed, right? Not your notifications feed, which is also very important.
We're just scrolling on the home feed.
The home feed. You're scrolling on the home feed, right? And you're scrolling, and you slow down. Well, why are you slowing down? There's got to be a reason. So it's measuring that, right? You slow down on the scroll. Then after the click, it's also measuring the time after the click. Oh, Adam has spent longer than 3 seconds on this cat video. Clearly, he's interested in watching more of this cat video. That's a dwell. So it's actually a duo dwell, right? D-U-O. It's a duo dwell. First on the scroll, it's measuring that time spent. and then after the click. So what are the implications of that, right? So they say this new update will help define the kind of content each user sees in their newsfeed, in their home feed, right? The implications are as follows. It will, or it could affect the people who are writing hooky, baity, as the LinkedIn.
Yes, the baity, the billboards.
The baity headlines, right? Because if you do that, Adam, then, and you would never do that, but if someone does that, then you better deliver, right? You better have some meat in the sandwich. Because if you don't, and people see that there's nothing there after the see more or the first line, however they're doing it, then you're gonna be dinged, right? And because people will bounce.
Okay, so they're trying to police it a little bit, right? But let's talk about people gaming that, right? If we're talking about the podders and the people doing that, they're going to have the people, instead of just writing comments and liking it, they're going to say in their instruction manual for the pods, hey, hang out on this post for a minute, right? Like give it an extra few seconds to game the system.
They're going to try, but I think once you what's the expression? Once fool me once, right?
Shame on you.
Exactly, right? Fool me twice, shame on me. So I think you'll know, right? You'll remember that person and what they did last time, and also the dwell time. We're fast these days, right? If we don't see the meat in the sandwich, we're going to bounce, and that that's going to be registered because the algorithm looks for positive and negative signals. So
let's just take it up to a higher level, right? And I want to talk about content strategy, right? And I mix my content up as far as formats and what the actual content is, right? So I mix up video, I mix up text, I mixed up still videos. They each perform differently. Time of day, who I'm tagging in it. There's all these factors in there as well. But is there still a hard and fast rule to say which content performs best, which type of format?
Yeah, it's a great question. There isn't because for a couple of reasons, right? Number one, there's so much variety that you can pretty much try something every day of the week and still have variety. So you could put a native video out there. You could put a post, or you could put a snippet about a podcast. You could put a post with a document, for example.
Yeah, the sliders are performing well.
That's my favorite. Well, think about the dwell time on that, right?
Yeah, I mean that's innately dwell time. I like that. That's
good. I've been doing that. for the past year or so.
I got to get back to the slider.
And I've been getting great results, because the reason I like that is because it's what I call an article in a post wrapper, right? So it's the post, but I'm delivering that long form content via the slider, via the PDF, and that's definitely going to give you, if you think about it, maximum dwell. Because I think I did one on polls. I think I had something like 16 pages because I had a lot of research.
Oh, I love that. No, that was a good one. So this is actually crazy. So I did this as a test. I'm going to sound like I'm really standing on my soapbox here, but I really believe as much as possible in all my content, I want to add value, right? I'm a big believer in that. And like,
very much.
Whether I post a video, I'm showcasing a guest with a core principle or idea that they want to share, or a knowledge bomb, right? That's what I really want to do in my videos. Sometimes I use my text posts for rants. I mean, my rants get tremendous engagement. People love my rants, especially when I'm shitting on the engagement pods. People love that. But I did a test. I think it was last Saturday. I had the most ridiculous looking meme. Did you see? There was that car that was all twisted, and the car said 2020. I'll pull it up in a little bit. But it's been literally my number one performing post of 2020. And all it was is this most ridiculous photo. It is like, it hurts your eyes to look at it. It has over 500 likes, 25,000 views, like crazy metrics for me, right? Where I'm at. And I'm like, holy shit, is that all that really matters on this platform? Do people just want to be entertained, to laugh, something stupid? Am I wasting my time doing these shows and putting out good content?
No, you're not, because over time you'll basically build followership, and you'll continue to build that baked-in audience. What's the expression? Yeah, sure. I'm an overnight success that took 10 years, and that's essentially what happens. You don't just arrive. You don't become an influencer. You don't lose in visibility by doing nothing. You gain visibility by doing the same thing very well, improving all the time. time, but essentially having this tribe that keeps on building, keeps on being very interested in what you do. Now that may have been an outlier, the car thing may have been an outlier for you in terms of your other content, and I totally get why that could be both a head scratcher and really. Is that what?
It's also kind of funny. It's also really twisted. I'll send you the link afterwards. It really it'll blow your mind.
So you'll get that. But I say, stay true to what you really, really enjoy doing, and then pay very close attention to the engagement, because views are really just impressions. I think most people understand that views are just impressions. It's a problematic stat.
It's just something that's showing in your feed, right? There's not the depth to it, but it's also showing velocity and reach.
Right, and reactions are also, are nice to have, but at the end of the day, reactions are kind of easy to give and fairly easy to dismiss. What you really want are comments. Comments are the fuel; they're the rocket fuel.
But real comments, because that's how it's gamed, right? The system's gamed with comments.
Real comments, and that's probably something else the algorithm is smart enough to analyze.
Are they picking up on that? Are they picking up on the agreed, awesome, love it?
Well,
good stuff.
Let's hope, right? Because
that's what's killing the system, in my opinion, right? I think that's what's killing LinkedIn's engagement pods.
Yeah, and I don't understand why people would do that to their own brand. Because if you're a great and awesome and yay, bro, that's not going to help you, and it's not going to help the author. What's needed, what's required, is actually meaningful, thoughtful, value-add commentary, and that helps the author. It helps the person who's actually written that comment, and that's what gets engagement. That gets what drives the engagement engine and gets the algorithm excited, if a bot can get excited.
Yeah, no, that is fascinating.
So another thing that's happened recently was, and this may have just been a glitch. It may have been like the curtain sort of being sort of moved slightly, and then the curtain pulled back. But what happened recently, a few days ago, was again, Richard van der Blom, one of his Dutch buddies, sent him a screenshot, and it was very interesting because what the screenshot shows is again in the home feed. The home feed is where everything's happening right now, and it's important if you think about eyeballs and advertising.
You think about the experience, where ad placement could go.
Yeah. It's the Wild West. LinkedIn has to get this right, has to improve it somehow. It's certainly in terms of relevancy, and what the Dutch screenshot showed was that the content in the home feed that he had to see had no stats displayed whatsoever.
They blacked out all the stats. Meaning, if you look at your home feed right now, you'll see who viewed your profile on the left, number of video views. You'll see
none of that.
If you have separate pages, your hashtags.
Yeah. None of that. So maybe we're all getting, the LinkedIn obsessors who watch this kind of stuff, maybe we're getting overly excited about nothing, right? Nonetheless, what that could mean, going back to what you said about democratization, if you think about that, you don't have any influence there's nothing influencing you other than the content, not, how many times it was reacted on, how many comments, all of that good stuff. It's just the content, the pure content. Now, for something like that to have been revealed, accidentally, or maybe it's just a glitch, at the same time as dwell time, if you'll excuse the pun, is happening and is real. That's very interesting to me, because that could be the great equalizer. It certainly would harm podsters. It would harm the hyper-viral folks, right? The people who just dominate with fairly light content. All right,
I call it. What the hell is that?
Yeah, that's no good.
It's a landscaper.
I think someone's working my drive. We may have to.
It's all good. We'll roll with it, right? I call it Andy. I call it LCD.
Yeah.
I call it lowest common denominator content. I think a lot of people do that. I call it the broetry also. I think there's a lot, or I also call it the Hallmark cards. I think a lot of people write Hallmark cards in these overly emotional, flowy. But I feel like they're writing it for the purpose of driving engagement. They do it all the time. It's a variation on "you got this" or "get your hopes up" or like "you've been fired, I get it too" kind of shit too, instead of the real value add. But people love it, man.
Yeah, they totally do. I apologize. This is all right. This is what happens when people are at home and other people are not working together or collaborating.
Usually the landscapers here
or communicating. So there is a market for that, Adam, for sure. But to me, it's kind of, if you look for far enough on the web for it, you'll find it anyway. And then it's also, I think, an excuse for a lot of people to pile in and give the one-word responses.
Yeah. So let's talk about actually content, right? I mean, it's actually interesting. I mean, we've seen the influx. I call it, this is kind of my version of being a student in the game here. I see it as a logical progression, right? We've had MySpace, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. I mean, my chronological order is a little bit off here. But mine, you think about all these where there's content creators that are migrating from one platform to another because they're seeing the opportunity for organic reach. And we've been here on LinkedIn, I'd say the last 6 to 9 months. We're seeing the TikTokers, we're seeing the YouTubers come here, and they're creating a lot of content, in my opinion, that's not, I'm going to sound like old school LinkedIn police here, that's not really relevant to, business, careers, and all that, but it's just a lot of bullshit on there, and they're coming here for the attention. Is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it just a logical progression? I sound like an old man on my soapbox here. What's happening, Andy?
Yeah, it's a thing, and unfortunately, it's a tide that you cannot stop, Adam. It's going to happen regardless. And I used to have the same kind of
here we go
concern, right?
Okay, here we go. Annie's talking about it here.
So is the platform turning into a space for content creators eventually? Yeah, I mean, all content creators are welcome, right? Regardless of the type of content. If it's informational and educational and value add in that sense, I love it. That's what I look forward to reading. If you're someone else, if you're perhaps, if you're younger and you want to be entertained, and you want to be inspired, or you want to aspire to something else, and that's your thing, great. But we're not going to be able to stop it. We shouldn't be able to stop it anyway. It's here.
It's here.
But the idea of course, dwell time is that you won't see that stuff because you're training just by scrolling and dwelling.
Going past it.
In theory, right? And also it's about training your network, frankly, because if you're
I agree with you. Take control of your feed. I talk about it all the time. Take control of your feed. The concept of you could control what you see and what you don't see. You could unfollow people. You could totally unfollow. You could remove. You could block it. You could do whatever you want. If you don't like that shit, block it.
Exactly. And so, I mean, what we should all like about dwell time is that it's less intensive on us, right? It's less work because all we're doing is training by scrolling, right? So it's almost like the algorithm is looking into our mind, and we're not having to do all of that good stuff like muting, deleting, worst case scenario, blocking. So that, in a sense, is actually a huge step forward if we're using machine learning, right? Machine learning to decide, okay, what do we serve Andy and Adam if they don't like those videos, if they don't like the cards that in the 70s used to be like posters on the wall.
Oh,
right?
The memes of the cat hanging from the branch. Or like, I mean, literally, for me, a lot of these people's content look like Hallmark cards, and I scroll past it. So I want to talk about follower growth, and I'll use myself as a case study here. I've had some decent growth, right? I mean, I've been on the platform since 2006. So a lot of my actual followers and my connection, let's talk about connections for me. A lot of my connections, we'll say from 0 to 10,000, were built over the course of 12 years, right? Now, I have this kind of hypothesis in my head that a lot of those may not be engaged anymore. They may be kind of off the platform, or they're not using it as much, versus people coming on having exponential growth because their followers are more hyperactive, and it's just fueling it forward. Is there something to my hypothesis? How do I grow my followers in an organic way?
Yeah, so the short answer is just to keep doing what you're doing. But if you use what I do, the example that I talked to you about earlier with the hashtag, the custom hashtag, not only did I start using it everywhere, so in comments as a kind of like an email footer, I also added in parenthesis after the hashtag, follow me. Mm-hmm. That seems like a basic move, but what it did was it actually energized the following to that hashtag by 20% in just a week. So think about the power of that. So I went from 199 to 240 in a week just by saying follow me in brackets. So the message to me as a brander and to everyone else out there is, if you want people to do something, then you've got to spell it out. You've got to make it as clear as possible. So
would you recommend that I kind of have a custom footer that I use for everything, where it's like for more content? I see a lot of people doing this. For more content, follow me here. For more on the podcast, follow here.
Yeah, I do recommend you do that. But I would also, just make it a one-liner, certainly in comments, because I don't think in comments people want to see like 3 or 4 lines of do this. Yeah. I think there's nuance, and there's over the top. Yes. So I would just just use the hashtag and then change it up. If you want to use the hashtag and say follow me, or if you want to say hey follow me, and you can drop your link. But they wouldn't need it because they would see a link if you just like at your name.
Yeah.
Then you can say follow me. But yeah, so followers. I spoke to Sarah Johnston yesterday, and she's
I know Sarah well. She's been on my show. She's an alumni.
Yeah, you know everyone, right? And so she's awesome. She's super talented. But the thing that blew me away about her when I got to know her was the following. And now she's got almost 500,000 followers. And I said, Sarah, what does that mean to you? And she says nothing. And I said, oh, okay. So what she means by that is that's not her concern. This is something that just happens, right? It happens when you do good stuff, when you do great stuff on LinkedIn.
Yeah, look at Austin Belcock, all these guys that are adding value. They're growing legitimate followers, legitimate followers.
So they're not focused at all. It's like views. They don't care about the views. What they care about is the engagement. They care about putting out great content that helps as many people as possible, and essentially sharing then 95% of their knowledge, keeping the 5% of the secret sauce for clients. That kind of approach, right, definitely works. It's what I do, but that's not important. So figure out what's important. What's important is engagement. The followers, right? Yeah, that's certainly keep an eye on that, but ultimately, unless, take your pick, unless LinkedIn get out of the way of you and your followers. So unless the algorithm stops interfering, right, in people who have followed you. Why have they followed you? They followed you because they want to see more of your stuff, right? They're interested in you, right? Unless that happens, then those 450,000, whatever, how many thousands of followers you have are not going to be that important to what you do.
The ones that are engaged, the ones that actually care about your content.
Right. So let's talk about that. And this is something that I need to do more of, and you probably do too. But the algorithm is relatively dumb. It needs, what do I mean by that? It needs to be told sometimes that it should be doing something. And the big example there is if you don't show specifically that you're interested in hearing from a new connection or a new follower, that that you want to see their stuff. If you don't tell or show the algorithm that, then it's not going to do that. So what I don't do enough of is I don't visit your profile. I don't look at your content as much as I should, because if I did more of that, then I would see more of your stuff. It's as simple as that, and vice versa. Yeah. So if someone says to me, "Oh, Andy, I never see your stuff anymore," that's on me, right? Because I haven't trained the algorithm. I haven't shown the algorithm that very positive signal that, yes, I want to see more of Madeline stuff, or I want to see more of Austin stuff. I have to go and engage on their stuff. That's the clear signal.
You have to proactively go on their page and search for it. Yeah, I know it's a game, man. I mean, listen, there's also a time frame, right? Like how much time do I want to invest into this versus, I mean, there's people that literally spend all day, trying to game the system and figure it out, and you see their growth. Right. Yeah. I mean, we're not talking about the Gary V's of the world or the Ray Dalio followings out there, right? We're talking about everyday people, and there's work. They put in the work to get there. This stuff does not happen overnight. Now, yes, there's a couple of overnight sensations that blow up here and there. It's also the popularity contest. I feel I truly feel, and here's our therapy session here. I really feel that I put out a lot of great content, and I feel that my followers will come because they want to be there. And I also believe, Andy, that not everybody is your audience. Not everybody is your audience or should be your audience too. There's a lot of content on LinkedIn. Like, I'll connect with people because they're like kind of cool and popular. They'll reach out to me and I'll be like, all right, let's give it a shot. And literally after a few weeks of looking at their stuff, I'm like, it's too much of my feed. Your followers are not going to drive my business. They're not going to drive listens to my show. And let me train this and let me get it out of here. And I'm fine with that. I'm not in a race to 30,000. I always make this joke too, right? And it's kind of ridiculous. I see people that come on this platform and literally in 8 months, they've gotten 30,000 connections, because you could literally sit there all day and you can max out the connections. And that is not that hard. It's kind of shitty how people play the game there too. Yeah. I joke all the time. I'm like, I've been on this platform since 2006. Don't you think if I really wanted to, I would have hit that years ago? If I break that down and did the math and did 20 connections a day for 10, like
that whole open networker concept and the lions and the connect with me
and the 3 easy steps and all that bullshit.
It's all nonsense. It's all, it's all just feather light, throw away. It's a complete waste of time. Yeah. If your strategy is connecting with anyone with a heartbeat, that's not a strategy. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help them either. But I totally agree with you. There are people who, when I was testing polls, right, exhaustively, and I was putting out polls that would look like they're from me, totally LinkedIn centric, and then I would mix it up and I would send out, some stuff that is just very lightweight and not terribly focused on my core tribe. I would get a few responses by, along the lines of, Andy, what are you doing with your brand? This is not you.
It's off-brand.
Well, they don't get it. They didn't get that to do the test properly, I had to put all kinds of content out there.
Well, that's why I put up the shitty car post.
Yes, right. So you were experimenting, and if they don't understand that, Adam, then maybe they shouldn't be connected. You've got to take a view, but also
it killed it.
Yeah, well, it did kill it. So you achieved something. Right, it was an outlier, and then also you achieve visibility. The death knell on LinkedIn is if you're invisible, and that unfortunately that leads to a lot of frothy style content. To put it mildly. But the other thing is that the other point you made was that look, people, for example, they might tag you, right? I don't know if you're tagged.
Listen, I am lately, dude. In the last 6 weeks, I'm tagged to death, and I literally muted on it and. Yeah. Some of them, they're tagging me with people I really dislike that I have been, not connected with because I really don't like them, and they're tagging me and they're including me in there. So am I guilty by association? Right.
Well, my dilemma is that there are people that tag me, and they have given me so much love, so much attention over the years, and I respect them very much, but their content just isn't something that I'm interested in. And if you tag me and I don't respond, then take a hint. Right,
yeah,
take me off the tag list and do that.
They don't give a shit because they're all copied in a form where they just copy and paste it in every post.
Who knows what exactly the thought process is? Perhaps they're thinking, well, maybe Andy didn't see it. Maybe let me try the second. Let me try the third time.
It's awful. No, I'm guilty by association. They're literally putting me with people that I absolutely despise.
Right. So it's a guilt trip. It's a bit of a guilt trip on my side because, like I said, these people have.
I'll give it a like. I'll give it a.
But I'm telling you right now, if it's not something that I am so focused on everything LinkedIn that if I get stray out of my lane, like I did with the poll, some of the poll questions, people notice. I'm not constrained by that. That's my preference. I am all in on LinkedIn, nothing else, right? So regardless of what it is, I'm just that's just me. That's the way I do it. That's the way I roll.
I love it. Andy, this has been awesome. I want to have you back on. I'm going to take, just for everyone watching, I'm going to be taking probably about a 3-week hiatus from the live show during the daytime. We're doing some work on our house, and my studio here is right in the middle of where all the work's going to happen. So I'm going to end the live. We will have LinkedIn Live. The late night show is coming back. I don't know if you had a chance to check out our premiere episode a couple weeks ago.
I saw it.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
We're really planning. This is going to be cool. We could talk about LinkedIn Live for a second here. I really think that LinkedIn, my personal take is that they're giving out too many passes to everybody to try it. And I don't think they're doing a good enough job on regulating the quality content. I think they could do a better job of saying, all right, listen, if we're going to put this out there, we need to say what's good content and what's not good content. Right. And I think that's it. I put a lot of effort into it too. And I think it's oversaturated. And also I would love for them to have their own, native streaming app. I mean, I love StreamYard. That's what I'm using right now. I have a lot of bells and whistles there, but I think it's hurting the system. What do you think about LinkedIn Live?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, a very good example was that I'm on StreamYard and I'm not on LinkedIn, and I could have been doing so much more if I was doing it on LinkedIn. In addition, so it's more complicated than it needs to be.
Agreed.
There was a live streaming thing which was really, really cool back in the day, 4 or 5 years ago, called blab.im. And I was on that, and a bunch of my other buddies were on that, and it was so slick, Adam. It was so easy to do. That was one of the big attractions. And if you compare that to, I know it's a beta, but this sure makes it hard for the live streamer on LinkedIn right now. And it just needs to get to the blab status or the blab technical quality. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how much they want to put into it. And what else? What are your thoughts on it? I hear stories coming down. I think they're testing it in South America.
Yeah, so they started in Brazil. It's in Holland now as well, and I think element or parts of the UK have got it. So it's coming. It's interesting to me. It'll doubtless be more of the frothy stuff, right? More of the TikTok style things. I don't know it. I don't use it, so I'm not sure about this throwaway, whatever it is, how many seconds it is, and it's kind of throwaway culture. But I would be interested if people are using it for behind the scenes stuff that is value add. That would be cool.
That could be kind of cool.
So yeah.
I'm thinking. Let me just bounce an idea off you too. I've been thinking. I see a lot of people that are doing a lot of this pull back the curtain content to show like the bottom of the under the waterline, what the iceberg looks like. I've been thinking about doing a content series to kind of show all the work that goes into my show, because everyone sees this. What they don't see is my scheduling. They don't see my process of asking guests for information, even for the podcast, the production, the graphics, the sound, and everything. So I'm thinking about doing a series on that. That could be entertaining. I have about 50 clips queued up from the last 8 weeks of shows, live shows. Like this will be turned into, we're going to clip this up in a few weeks and I'll get it out there. That's the content I like, and I think people do too, right? I think that people are kind of into that, and it's about experimenting, right? This is a game for me. This is experimenting. It's building my brand and what works and what doesn't work, and I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm wearing my LinkedIn shirt. This is from, it's on this sleeve here. Here's my official LinkedIn Talent Connect I got last year at Talent Connect.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah. I'm just wearing my Hurley burgundy.
So Andy, let's bring it home here, man. On a personal note, like, the last 8 weeks, it's been tough on everybody. Give me some good news. Give me something good that's happened in your life.
Yeah, thankfully, because I watched you and Sean. I was waiting for
you knew it was coming. I know how to structure my shows, man.
Yeah,
one thing I'm good at.
You got to have structure. So yeah, I would say the big one for me is having the family at home, and now we've all kind of got into our working from home groove, and it took 2 or 3 weeks. So my daughter's now online, and she's diligently doing her classes, which is very cool, and she's handling all of the equipment like a pro, even though Daddy didn't spring for the super fast laptop, and she's got this ancient Mac Mini. My wife is she just started a new job, so she's working from the living room, and she's got her set up, and I'm in the home office. But I got the raw deal today because of the saw going off. So
it was a couple minutes. It's fine.
Yeah, so it took some time.
We're live. Anything could happen. You got to roll with the punches.
I know, right? I do apologize. That was loud. So we've now reached this nice balance of a new normal, and that's kind of cool. And that's the plus side. The downside is that socially distancing, friends, and it's having to do it via Zoom and all that stuff. So, but on the positive side, we've adjusted. Put it that way.
No, I love it, man. Andy, thank you so much for joining me. We're going to do this again over the summer when I get my live backed in. I think I kind of have this thought. I'm going to bounce it off you. We're kind of spitballing here. I kind of like you as a real-time correspondent, like an ongoing correspondent, where I could have you come in every so often and talk about updates. Yeah, and maybe we'll turn it into a thing.
Yeah,
maybe turn to like 10 minute kind of briefings, like during the lives. Maybe like a quick comment. Here's what's happening, folks. Here's what you should check out. If that's something you're open to, we could spitball it.
Like $800 an appeappearance, something like
that? As soon as I get my sponsors, and we got more. It's so interesting too. So real quick, Staffy, I think you'll appreciate this. My nighttime live show, streaming wise statistics, insanely better really? on all the stats than my daytime show. I feel like daytime metrics are down. People are working. They're not always on here too. I get all my action on the replays. I get all of it on the engagement when I repost it, YouTube, everything. Versus the live feed. There's some people don't like watching live because they're actually doing work.
Right. There's that also, but there's also like it's the unknown factor, isn't it? You don't really know how what the content is necessarily about unless you know the guest.
Unless you know who they are. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know the quality of the content again unless you know the guest, the host. The quality, right? Because it's Adam Posner. But so there's that. Yeah. But I think you're right. It's fundamentally down to I don't have time for this. I got stuff to do. Yeah. So yeah, live is hard.
Yeah, man. Cool. Well, Andy, thank you for joining me. Where can folks find you? Where could they connect with you? Where could they learn more? for?
Yeah, well, funnily enough, LinkedIn. I'm I'm on LinkedIn, but also my website, as you can see underneath my beard, is linkedinsites.com. I would encourage you to visit that and to basically vacuum up all of that LinkedIn related content. I share an awful lot of stuff, and I hope that people find that valuable.
Awesome. Andy, thank you for joining me. And everybody watching, thank you for hanging out with us. You know where you can find us, all the podcast stuff on thepodcast.com. You can find us on LinkedIn. You know where we are. Subscribe, comment, engage, right? That's what it's all about. That's the lifeblood. That's what fuels my fire here. Tell me what you want to see. Tell me what you don't like to see. Do you like what Andy's talking about? Do you like what Sean's talking about? And again, we're going to be off for the next couple of weeks from the daytime show, but there'll be regular scheduled podcast coming at you. And we're also doing the next late night live show on the 10th. We got some great guests coming up. Andy, thank you for joining me, and everyone else. Thank you. Take care. Wash your hands. Be good to each other, and catch us in a couple of weeks when we're back on the podcast.